Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sick of This Shit Publications. I'm Nick Paro, not your dad, joined again for our follow-up interview today of Intelligent Masculinity so that we can finish our question set. Is AngryMaleVet. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good. It's been
Yeah,
another busy week. I'm pretty sure every week is going to be busy weeks for us until we're out of this. But I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in
yeah.
there.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to get your thoughts on some of the things that are going on right now before we get into the questions again. This time we got to start on time. Good morning, everyone in the audience. As you start coming on into, if you can on Substack, hit that, hit the heart. And hit the subscribe button in the top left-hand corner so you can join both of us. It's going to be a great conversation. Last time we talked was a couple weeks ago, and we left off partway through our discussion. We had some technical difficulties at the beginning, and we both wanted to come back and finish the talk. I have some more questions, and I want some more answers, and I'm so excited to have you back. And there's been some developments since the last time we've spoken.
Yeah,
And I would be interested to get your thoughts on some of the things that are going on, especially around what's happening near the Strait of Hormuz and the naval blockade that's going on, the ceasefire that isn't a ceasefire, and yeah, just your general thoughts. And then also the fact that the head of the Navy was just fired. And now
Secretary
we
of the
have a
Navy. Yep.
replacement. Yeah, Secretary of the Navy was just fired. So your thoughts on some of those things?
Yeah, a whole lot going on, right? It's just different chaos, different day under this administration. And so, we had the 2 week ceasefire, which got to the end. And then now it's an indefinite ceasefire because Iran wasn't going to show up for the talks, even though Washington was ready to send Vance to head there and look for some furniture. And it wasn't going to happen. And so now here we are, and they're kind of trading the seizure of vessels. Iran has seized a couple vessels, fired on another. The United States has seized a couple in the Indian Ocean out in that direction as well. So we're doing this back and forth. Again, it's an indefinite ceasefire right now, according to Trump, with no deadline for the end of the ceasefire, no deadline for talks to start. The Secretary of the Navy, as you mentioned, has been removed, John Phelan. He was a billionaire donor to Trump, and apparently there was some back and forth about the pace of shipbuilding going on. There were also personality conflicts with Hegseth. He's very soft. He's a very soft individual, and apparently he does not like criticism or people disagreeing with him, which is one of the reasons why General Randy George, who was the Army Chief of Staff, was fired in the Army. And both of these individuals have been removed in the middle of a war. So that goes to tell you the kind of chaos that's happening just inside the Pentagon, which continues to turn more and more people against that guy because he has no business running that. So, yeah, the international world wants this to be over. They want to start clearing the mines out of the strait, which will take 6 months after things die down. So it could take an even longer time. We don't even know where this is going to end, but it's a lot of chaos. But billionaires are loving life because they always seem to get the tip off to sell right before he says a peace deal is imminent, and then they buy low and he ratchets up the tension and prices go up and then they sell at the right time. So billionaires, oil and gas industries are making a killing while the rest of us are looking at the prices at the gas station going, what the actual hell is going on?
Yeah, yeah. And I put out the other day, and I know oil prices are not really the only thing that matter. However, as Chris Goldsmith, our friend, put out the other day, is gas prices are one of the few things that Americans see all the fucking time. And it's really what gets people started being either for or against what we're doing in a conflict, because our conflicts tend to be about oil conquest. Somehow, like they just keep being about
Have been lately. Yep.
conquest, have been lately. And it's very obvious this time that it's not doing what they thought it would, or how they thought it would go, because you can see it at the pump every day. Like, I'm in Arkansas. We've gone up $1.50 a gallon for regular gas. We went from like 2.50 to 4. Our diesel is almost at $6 now. Like, that's a lot in the South, and it pisses Americans off. And is it the right reason that Americans should be pissed off? Probably not, because there's
Yeah.
other worse things going on, but at least it's visible and it starts the drive for Americans to actually be against things. What are your thoughts
And
on that a little bit?
yeah, no, and I think for a lot of people when they see that, especially in this time frame that we're in, where it seems like there's a little bit more scrutiny on billionaires and what they're spending their money on while they're cutting, healthcare for us, and there's not enough money for schools, and there's not enough money for, according to Trump, childcare. There's plenty enough money for them to want to have a $1.5 trillion defense budget. There's plenty enough money for them to take a tax cut, like in the big beautiful bill of $3.7 trillion. The money is there. And so I think when they see the gas prices, it is this time frame where billionaires are under more of a spotlight. And so, you're shafting us, oil companies are making money, billionaires are making money with insider trading, and yet we're getting stuck with this. So I think it opens up the aperture a little bit more for the average American citizen to go like, why are the rich continuously getting richer, and we're losing services, we're spending more money while 13 American, men and women service members are dead, over 400 wounded, thousands killed, innocents, millions displaced, but the rich keep getting richer. And so the gas prices are, overall, not the big expenditure. It's the loss of services. It's the other costs that the Republican Party and Trump are, throwing at us. And they haven't even gotten to some of it because some of it isn't even going to kickstart until 27 and 28 from that bill they passed.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I
Yeah,
think it
the
I think
big
it just
bullshit
opens up
bill.
people's eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I think you hit on a really important point there too, is the services from the big bullshit bill that passed and everything got cut. We're seeing all the pre-effects because the funding dried up. Everybody knows the funding's not going to be there, so they're starting to actually close shop. People are done with the amount that they had. They've ended their leases, they're closing down. Plus, the Pentagon is asking for a $1.5 trillion budget on top of service cuts. And I looked at the budget proposal, and my immediate thought was, this is a Palantir wet dream
Sure.
of what is happening, because they're getting drones, they're getting AI automation, and they're getting to integrate into every single piece of infrastructure within the US. And this is like full institutional capture the from Palantir. And what are your thoughts on that? Because to me, they're a really dangerous company, and the way
Yeah.
that they're driving us forward, especially as they put out this 22-point manifesto of theirs for their Nazi techno-fascist takeover, and what that means, or what that could pretend, or yeah, or what could that bring in the face of all of this?
Yeah, I think it's just another step towards their desired autocracy, right? Or oligarchy, you name it. All of it's bad for us, no matter what name you put on it. Fascist. It's all kind of combined together with white nationalism. But yeah, it's the selling the country to companies. That's what it seems to be, and that's been going on for a while. That's been going on since the
Yeah.
trickle down, bullshit theory where we figured out it wasn't rain whatsoever. Now we're seeing it just accelerated because they're not hiding it anymore, and they're trying to pull the strings to make it harder for you and I to have conversations like this, for us to be continuously tracked. They've got the FISA, renewal that is up in Congress right now, as far as spying, surveillance on American citizens. And so it's just kind of pointing that direction, with Palantir leading the way as one of those companies that wants to drive the control of the American populace and the monitoring of the American populace, and be a part of our everyday lives to the benefit of the oligarchy. It's not to protect anybody. It's not to defend anybody. Again, We already have a $1 trillion defense budget, which is, 3 times bigger than China and more than the next 9 countries combined. We're doing just fine there, but they're trying to couch it and get into people's limbics systems, their fight or flight, and say, you are under threat, so you need us to be in charge, and have this massive defense network and monitoring network and surveillance network, and AI and all of these things that are only going to make them more money and make our lives harder.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a question early on from someone in the chat that I wanted to get to and have your thought on it is what can people as ordinary citizens do right now to push back against these policies?
Yeah, I think so. Some people say that protests don't work, and I would disagree with that. So protests are one thing where protests are motivation for others. When you go out and you see No Kings protests or even just small protests in your town, that is like there are people who are like me who are standing up to this and know that this is wrong. When you see the massive No Kings protests, which only get bigger, that is awe-inspiring. We haven't seen things like that in this country before. We're getting into historic proportions right now. So join protests. The other thing as well is we're in primary season, and one, make sure you're registered to vote because they are cutting people from voting rolls, and when you check, it might be too late. So check now to make sure that you are on there. You have not been removed from some bullshit technicality. Get other people to vote. And remember, we lost a whole lot of people in 24 who just did not vote because of that situation. So help people register to vote, get that information out there, and then go vote and vote in the primaries. Like find that candidate that you're looking for. If you're worried about establishment Dems, everybody should be worried about Republicans. I'm sorry, they've proven they can't be trusted and they're taking our money. But if you're tired of establishment Dems, vote for a primary candidate that's maybe more progressive and wants to tax the rich. And if not, then go vote in November, even for the establishment Dem. And I know some people say it's two wings of the same bird, but when we continue to push for this progressive movement and accountability, it puts more pressure on those establishment people to then, flip our way. And so,
Yeah.
but we can never leave a vote on the table and not use it against the current Republican Party because of what they've done and the lack of accountability and the blatant corruption. So go protest, talk about these things, put your message out on any platform that you have. I know some people are worried about expressing an opinion. Express an opinion now while you still can, and let other people know where you stand, because the overwhelming majority of the country stands with you. You should not be worried about that, but get that message out there and add to that voice. And then again, vote, get other people registered to vote. And yeah, let's start to flip this thing around, because we're in that point of friction where I do think the pendulum is going to start to swing the other way, and it's going to start to swing hard, but it won't do it as quickly without us pushing.
Yeah. And also to build on that answer is become part of communities like this. As regular people, become part of communities like this, spread podcasts and shorts and videos and the things that we're talking about, because the more you guys become part of the community, the more that we can make an impact as a whole. Like yesterday, I met with myself, Walter Ryan, and Will Fullwood, 3 individuals I think you should talk to. They're or 2 individuals you should talk to. They are really great people. I'll message you who they are and their links after the show, so you don't have to try.
Yeah.
However, we met with someone. Her name is Kira Havens. She is a representative for the Courage candidates, which is a network of more progressive candidates who are pushing for, and she's part of the citizens impeachment movement. And they've been writing a lot of the impeachment language to try and get impeachment on the floor and actually get impeachment articles written, even if they don't pass. Just having them there and getting them out there and continually putting pressure. I think she would be someone you would really enjoy speaking with. And then what she does is she drops our emails as podcasters to the candidates, and they have candidates running in a quarter of the House elections nationwide. And so if we could get a quarter of the House as courage candidates who are people who are willing to talk to us as smaller creators, as more progressive individuals, that could change the
Yeah,
whole game on it. And so I'll get you all that info after the show because I think you'd really enjoy speaking with her. And maybe I'll set up a time where the two of us can connect with her on a live,
perfect.
because she's really awesome. And she's a Air Force vet herself. Her husband's a Marine, and Marine vet, I believe. And the work that they're doing is really important. And to say that's the power of the community. Like, the more you guys get us out there, the more likely candidates are to speak with us. And that
Yep.
gets your voice heard too. Because I listen to what you guys are saying in the audience and I ask questions about it. And I make sure that you're seen and heard too. So I'll make sure you get connected with her. Because
Awesome. Thank you.
that network is incredible. I have an interview tomorrow now with a candidate running for Connecticut 4,
Yeah.
which 2 months ago, I never would have thought I would be interviewing candidates like this.
Yeah.
And so this is the power of you guys, is building these communities. So let's get into this though, because I don't want to lose our. Thank you, Courtney, for adding the link in the chat, and for anyone who wants to go to broadbanner.com at the end, or during the show, and we have a resources link where you can find the courage candidates, the Courage for Democracy, and the Citizens Impeachment website. Get some links to there. Get some clicks onto their site. All their candidates are listed with the primaries, who they are, what recent news they have. If we can support them in that way, at least get interviews. That's our power right now, because the primaries are really important, especially with folks. Actually, before we get into the interview, I want to ask you one final thing. Is the Senate yesterday voted on another war powers resolution and it failed,
Yep.
and we
Fifth
had
time.
fifth one, and we had a crossover between senators voting yay and nay. We had
Yep.
Rand Paul vote nay, or vote for the War Powers Act,
Yes.
and we had John Fetterman vote against the War Powers Act.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like what maybe that indicates? Because we all know John Fetterman is basically blue MAGA, but
Yeah.
what do you see that as indicating on, say, the libertarian side of what used to be the Republican Party? Because they're a actual national party that has the ability to break away and become independent
Sure.
from the Republican Party. Do you think that signals a shift for them, a continuing like push towards non-MAGA libertarianism versus like MAGA libertarianism?
Yeah, I think it's a part of it. Like, I think there's been that push for a little while on certain topics, and you see, when it comes to like Epstein, you see Paul and you see Massey. It seems to be the Connecticut guys, and then from a financial standpoint, you see Paul and Massey, and that's been one of the big things. Is like, why are we spending all this money, on a conflict, and when we could be spending money here, but also this is the power of Congress and the executive should not have this. And so Paul has kind of tread that line. He's got some stuff that I don't really agree with for sure in some things, and sometimes I think he's trying to just make sure he keeps a spot in the Senate. But right now, when it comes to the war powers, he seems to be firmly on the side of this should be something that Congress gets back from this, and that we don't need to be spending money in foreign wars, where he is constantly been a opponent of foreign wars and bringing money back into the United States, which is good on him. So yeah, I think we're just in that situation, and Fetterman is just, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing who unfortunately just kind of flipped almost as soon as he got into the Senate, and it's been really unfortunate to watch because he is not representative of the people of Pennsylvania, and they're really pissed off at that. They're like, we didn't vote for this. We voted for a fighter who is going to stand up and represent us, and now they're watching him just kind of bend, and kowtow to Republicans. I think he just came out and he was dismayed that Virginia won the redistricting battle before the judge blocked it, of course. but that he was dismayed. He was being live interviewed, and he was dismayed, and he said, "Two wrongs don't make a right." And it's just that's not the fighter that we thought he was. Like, we thought
Yeah.
somebody was going to stand up when Texas did it without even a vote of its constituents, you know, then we fought back and we got a vote and we won that in California and now in Virginia. And he's like, "No, two wrongs. We shouldn't have done it." It's just like you're just going to let them do that and capitulate. And
Mhm.
so it's just Fetterman's just a disappointment all around.
Yeah. And that does lead into our question set for today is welcome everyone to Intelligent Masculinity. Hopefully Substack doesn't keep screwing things up on us on that side, but that's okay. We're here anyways. We're going to have a great discussion. People have been saying Substack's a little glitchy right now. But for all of you with us, welcome to Intelligent Masculinity. I'm Nick Paro, not your dad, with AngryMaleVet. And the idea of some of these men specifically right now who don't stand up in any way, who just capitulate and just roll over, or the performative masculinity of folks like Pete Hegseth and even Donald Trump or JD Vance and Stephen Miller and people like that who perform their masculinity to an audience to get likes and clicks and views compared to what intelligent masculinity and what better humaning actually is. And so last time we spoke, we left off on what our definitions of intelligent masculinity are, and I'll redo mine or restate mine before we get into our question of how do you model this in your life? How do you model intelligent masculinity? Is, in my eyes, intelligent masculinity is the refusal to outsource accountability onto others and the discipline to live with the consequences of your values and actions. And none of these men do that. None of these men have values or care about consequences. And so I wanted to ask you, how do you model intelligent masculinity in your life to be on offense for defending masculinity, making it better, ridding ourselves of this toxicity? And so, how do you model it in your life?
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's becoming more of intelligent humanity, like I don't even define it as femininity or masculinity. It's just one of those things where am I being honest with myself and am I being honest with others about how I feel about things? Because nobody should ever be afraid of speaking out and talking about the way that they honestly feel. But in order to figure out how you honestly feel, I think you have to honestly assess where you are as a human being. And taking that time and taking the courage, because it does take courage to look inside and figure out, what are the things that are holding me back as a human being? Like, what are maybe things I've done in the past that I haven't come to grips with? What are, traumas in my past that I haven't come to grips with? And turning and facing those instead of, trying to get away from them. I think that is one of the first steps towards being an intelligent human and being fully aware, because intelligence isn't just what you can learn or read. It's how you've gone through life and what you've learned from life and your experiences, and taking learning to take accountability for things that you have done, and also to be aware of where you want to go in life. But I think it's very hard to do any of that stuff without that self-reflection and the awareness of who you are and how you feel about things, and that's an honest self-reflection. It can't be a mask. I think some of these people that push out, like Hegseth and Miller and all those guys, it is a mask that they put out there because they want people to like them. Like there's some deep fear and some deep fractures inside of them as a human being that they are trying to, if I put on this mask of this, what I consider an alpha male, then some people will like me and I don't have to be afraid. And it's unfortunate because, by doing so, they are affecting the lives of others and treating them in an inhumane manner because they want to get attention and appreciation from a small group of people who like that kind of attitude. And I do think it's the vast minority, but these people are victim to that because they won't take the time to look inside and go, how do I want to be as a human being? Like, I call myself a follower of Christ, and yet here I am praying that every bullet hits its mark and children are dying on a daily basis and being starved, and that seems to be okay. So just some broken, fractured individuals who, in my mind, if anybody took that extra time to, instead of looking outwards externally at everything that is getting thrown at us, from on the input, format, and looking inside and figuring out, how do I actually feel about things? Why am I sad about this? Why am I angry about this? Should I be? What is driving that emotion? And coming to grips with who we are and becoming our true authentic selves, whatever that may be. I think that that makes you more of an intelligent human, and I think it makes you a happier human too, because you're not just trying to do things for anybody else. You're figuring yourself out. That is the biggest challenge you can ever have, and you're walking, a healthier path.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that, and I think I'm pulling up an article from, I don't know if you know him, is Joe Plensler. He's another vet, who he does a show on Fridays on the Midas Touch now for their um, warcasting, and from the veterans' perspective. He wrote an article, and sent it to me yesterday, um, about the effects of the war, Hexus war on woke in the military itself, and the declaring of empathy as the enemy early in his term. And that lack of empathy is killing success today. Um, and that a military without empathy cannot win, because it cannot assess the other side and see, because as General Mattis says, the enemy always gets a vote.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, what are your thoughts on that? Like the idea of how this toxic, regressive masculinity, is impacting our ability to actually fight a war.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's one of those things where, if you are going to start making tactical, strategic decisions based on what is, woke or less woke, you've lost the plot, right? Like, I think it's like many things that this current fascist movement has come up with. They like their acronyms, DEI. They like short terms, woke, and they just throw it out there and they don't really define it and what it means. And it always seems to me that woke has just meant that you are aware of what is going on in the world. You're intelligent, you're curious, you're not going to be fed, whatever somebody tells you and take it as gospel. And so it's when they say, the war on woke, it's basically the war on people figuring out what's going on for themselves, as the same folks saying to fight, wokeness, are force feeding them what the narrative is that they want them to know. So, um, yeah, empathy when it comes to war fighting, I I think you have to have it. It's one of those things, like, you have to be aware of the consequences of your actions. There are certain points at certain times when your approach has to be very direct in the military, and it has to achieve an objective and accomplish a goal. If you don't have empathy for the ripple effects of what that is, and or at least an awareness of what's going to happen, you will never stop fighting. That war, that battle will never be over. And so you have to have empathy for the people who are not war fighters, the innocent civilians who get caught in the crossfire. Because if you don't, then we've learned this multiple times in the past, you're just creating more war fighters. And so if you're a defense contractor, if you're a billionaire who makes their life off of selling weapons, that's great. If you're a normal human being, an average human being, that's not something you want to do, is fight a war forever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like one of the biggest things I remember from being in Afghanistan was the philosophy of hearts and minds, and we had to win hearts and minds, or we would never leave. And the only way you get out is by having the civilian population of the country that you are inside on your side. And if they're not, you're never going to leave. And that does require empathy, because you have to understand who those people are. You have to get to know them. You have to be able to, um, see their values and what they want to get out of life, or how they want to achieve things in life. And maybe this could you your thoughts on this around the firing of the Secretary of the Navy, who didn't have that ability to, seems like that he didn't have the ability to empathize because he couldn't take criticism. And people who can't take criticism tend to be people who can't empathize with others because they're so closed off. Do you think that
Yeah.
played a part, or can play a part in like these leadership positions specifically? Um, and then when we get tiny acts of bravery, like General Kane, who apparently took the nuclear codes away, and said, no, 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 we're not doing anything like that. Like, there's small acts of bravery, but what do you how do you see that playing into this whole, like, either lack of empathy or the idea of needing empathy and needing compassion and needing to not see the world as I only need to be here to for conquest, because
Yeah.
I think there's a very big distinction for those of us in how we view, just world order in general.
Yeah, I think it's maybe intelligent masculinity, over empathy when I think about Hegseth and him wanting to fire people for criticizing him and having a difference of opinion. If you are a senior leader, you should want the most experienced people in the world around you offering advice. And that advice may not be exactly what you expected or what you think, right? Because at any point where you think you know it all and you've got it all covered, you should step down. You should absolutely be out of that leadership position. And he doesn't think like that. He thinks that I know exactly what I want, or I know what Trump wants, and I'm going to do it regardless of these decades of expertise, decades of sacrifice from senior combat leaders, not Phelan, but all of these individuals. And I don't get along with them because they stand up for what they believe in. They're willing to, fight for what is right. They're willing to say that when Hegseth reaches all the way down to remove an investigation from a couple of Apache pilots who are using our taxpayer money to put on a show for Kid Rock, hey, that's wrong. And that was my
Mhm.
job to work through. That's the Army's job. There's a chain of command, and to say something about that, which is exactly the way that it should be. And any good leader worth his salt would never have done what Hegseth did. So Hegseth he's just in this space of my way or the highway that is disastrous throughout history. Like the best leaders in the world have always taken advice from the most senior accomplished individuals around them, whether they liked it or not, and they had the intelligence to assess and compile all of those things and find the best way forward. Hegseth does not have that capability. There's so many people in this cabinet. Trump doesn't have that capability, and we're watching the consequences of that. We're watching a failed war which had six different objectives at the beginning, and they haven't met any of them,
Mhm.
except for sinking a couple of naval fleets or naval ships. And so that's where we're at. And then you get a guy like Phelan, who apparently was saying things that Hegseth didn't like. Well, I got to get rid of him. There were some other reasons too, with the shipbuilding and talking to Trump and being a billionaire donor and having Trump's ear. But it comes down to Hegseth just being a soft individual and not being able to handle anybody pushing back. And that's one of those things where then, as these senior military leaders, because I know people worry about the military flipping on us all the time. You have senior military leaders who are willing to do the things they need behind the scenes. They're not looking for, pomp and circumstance. They're not looking for attention. They're willing to do the things behind the scenes to make sure that things do not go off the rail. And they say the right things. They, with Greenland, pushing back behind the scenes so that we did not invade Greenland, and we've kept our NATO relationship. All of those things. I haven't been able to confirm the Dan Kane nuclear code stuff. That is something that, unfortunately, with Trump at the helm, is a possibility.
Yeah.
But it's those things of, hey, they don't respect Hegseth. I don't think they really respect Trump either, because of all the things that he has done to the military over, years, and the insults. And but their job is their job. And you've had a number of people resign. You've had a number of people get fired. That is not the end of them. There are thousands of them out
Mhm.
there, and they're not just going to flip for Trump. There is a code. There is an oath. and they will stick to that. And Hegseth doesn't have enough time in the world to go through all of them. So yeah, yeah, it's a crazy situation. I think it's important that the military continues to stand up. You won't hear about a lot of the things that they're doing, but
Yeah.
they're continuing to push back behind the scenes because we have poor leadership at the top who has zero respect for the warfighter.
Yeah. And yeah, zero respect for the warfighter
Yeah.
is a huge point there. Is it if they had respect for the warfighters, they wouldn't have done any of this. Like
No.
they wouldn't be sending people out the way that they did. They wouldn't be having terrible ration lines and food lines and and mismanagement of resupplies and
Yeah.
any of the things that we've been
Yep.
hearing about. Um, None of that would have happened
They were
had
warned
we had
about
good
this.
leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason we never invaded Iran or attacked
Right.
Iran. Like these types of plans have been around for decades. Like we're
Yeah.
not going to say that they weren't. Like this isn't Trump's plan. These weren't originally Trump's plans. These have
These
been
are worked on every day.
scenarioed out. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
we were just smart enough not to do them. We were smart
Well,
enough to know there would be ramifications that we can't control.
yeah. Nobody was a sucker for Netanyahu.
No, until Trump.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And this leads back to, in my eyes, is there's like we've been talking about a lot in this generally is the idea of self-reflection in any of this is they are unwilling to reflect in any way or self-evaluate. They're never wrong. They always are right. They have to be right. There's no middle ground. And that's a lack of empathy, yes, but it's also a lack of any self-reflection. And we have
Yeah.
folks like Mark Andreessen saying that's he never practices self-reflection. That's stupid. We only forge forward. Like, what do you do to purposely self-reflect? Because you've talked about you use self-reflection and self-evaluation. What are the tools that you use for yourself that maybe you want to share to others around how they could work on their self-reflection or add it into their toolkit?
Yeah, I think taking time to yourself and being present. We're in a society where it's very hard to be present because we have things coming from 800 different directions that are demanding our attention. It's an attention economy. And so taking the time to unplug, to sit with yourself, which a lot of people can be afraid of, to sit with yourself and to just be present. How am I feeling right now? Okay. Am,
Mhm.
am, am I starting to feel sad? All right, let's pull that apart. Why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling angry about something? Should I be? Like, is this something that actually has no consequence, but I'm feeling some kind of agitation? And why is that? Like let's go back and figure out like why am I agitated by this one thing happening, which seems, objectively minor. And I think instead of us being on that 7-second limbic, brain kind of treadmill of always reacting all the time, it's taking the time to be proactive and to stop and to breathe and to look inwards and go, why am I feeling this way? Why do I have this opinion about this? Why do I think this way about this? Like, have I made myself fully aware of that situation? But even that has to come kind of after this inside. Like this is the one thing you carry from cradle to grave is who you are and how you feel about things and how you react to things and how you are as a human being. And I think that when we talk about self-reflection, it's monumentally important to magnifying your life and the happiness in your life and the authenticity in your life as you go forward, because then when you make decisions, when you have thoughts about things, it's coming from a true space instead of something that maybe was, forced in externally from, like the poor MAGA people who get, like two sources and they hit them with the same thing every single day over and over and over. Like they're not thinking for themselves anymore. And it's unfortunate, but like being aware of who you are, I guess that's, part of being woke. That is the enemy of any fascist, autocratic, dictatorial movement, is people thinking for themselves and knowing who they are. And when you stop that and you think about who you are and how you feel and, do unto others as you would have done to you, that is the immediate, response and the blockade to what they're trying to accomplish. Because if you think about those things, then, starving people no longer sounds like a great idea. us having pennies on the dollar while billionaires are building ballrooms no longer seems like a good idea. Children dying, children not having lunch at school no longer seems like a good idea. But you have to have that awareness, that self-awareness of who you are, what you fear, what you get angry about, what you get happy about. And then I think you move forward as a more authentic human being, and you can do a lot of good and take care of others.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and I wanted to build on actually a conversation I had the other day with Naida Green from the disability community, and she and I were discussing the disabling effects of war, and the specifically around the disabling effects that are going to be coming out of this conflict, and how do we as veterans provide or create a space ahead of time for service members? Because I'm not anti-service member. I know you're not anti-service member. I'm anti this war and I'm anti illegal wars.
Sure.
And I know that our troops and our service members, when they come home, if they do not have a system of community already there for them and ready to go, or for their families while they're deployed, a system of community, they will get sucked into a right wing trap. It's like that's basically the option: is you either
Or
get
an addiction.
or an
Yeah.
addiction and end up dying.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
crap!
Yeah. It
My
is.
power just did something weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I'm
still see you.
hoping.
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, my power just did something weird, y'all. Sorry about that. But what do you think we can be doing as veterans right now, either ourselves, but also as our community, to build the necessary spaces and offer those spaces ahead of time so that our fellow service members don't fall into these traps of either right wing red pilling, black pilling, and accelerationism,
Yeah.
or into the suicide path.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's raising awareness. What we're doing right now, talking about it and making people realize that it's okay to talk about it. That's critical because you've got a lot of people who, anytime there's conflict, there's trauma, not just military, but obviously civilians. The kind of trauma that is being experienced throughout the region right now is insane, and making sure that people are aware that it is okay to admit that you've been traumatized, and you need to talk to people. And that can be to a group, that can be to an individual, but it can't be just to yourself, right? Like, hey, I'm traumatized and I'm going to sit in this and I'm going to repress it and I'm not going to let it out. I'm not going to show people. I'm not going to talk about it. That is where then you see people start to turn to other things like addiction. And that could be, drugs, alcohol, sex, online, hate, anger is like anything to escape how you're feeling inside. And that's the last thing that you want to do as a human being, in my opinion, is to escape how you're feeling inside by going out to get something else to momentarily feel better, right? And so, you have people that go down the red pill, like they get that hit of dopamine of like hate and like people saying like, oh, we're gonna get this guy and this guy, and it gets a rise. Oh, I didn't think about myself for a moment. I didn't think about the fact that I'm hurting. I thought about something else, and they continue to chase that, and it takes them to dark spaces. So I think the biggest thing is just talking and getting it out there, and then finding communities that exist, or helping trying to create communities of veteran support groups, victim support groups of any type, all of those things, so that people can realize that they are not alone when they are suffering and they're hurting. Something bad has happened to them. It doesn't have to be war. It could be something back in your past childhood or something as you developed, but other people are hurting in that same way. And it is vital to go find those people and talk to them and not let yourself just stew in your own stuff, because that becomes a recipe. Self-reflection is absolutely critical. And when you have a period of self-reflection, it's like something's broken here, then it's, I need to go find help and I need to go talk to others who are experiencing these things, who have been through that, who have walked my path and can help me recover. And having that strength to go do that and take that first step, because it can be a scary thing to ask for help, but millions of people ask for help all the time, and they get better because of it. And so, yeah, I think raising awareness and then not being afraid to reach out to people are the two biggest things.
Yeah. Yeah. And having that system, knowing that people are there with you and for you is really important. And so us building that space now, which we're doing, we're building that space with each other right now, but also making sure that those who are active duty or their families know that these spaces exist. Like offering them, we can build them, but we also need to spread these spaces and make them more readily available, both for an emotional community where somebody can come back and they know they're not alone, they're part of it, they feel like they're part of it, but also you have to do it in person. Um, and and for me, that was therapy through the VA. I did a group therapy, and that
Yep.
was one of the most important things that I've done in my life because it gave me a community that I could talk to without judgment, and that I could express myself without judgment, and I could listen to others without judgment and hear their stories and know that I'm not the only one going through this.
Not even close.
Yeah. And so that is the self-reflection piece. And what do you see? Because I know there's a lot going on with the VA, and there's a lot of anti-mental health discussions with our current administration because of these anti-woke policies.
Yeah.
How do you see that impacting our service members who are going to come back from Iran with trauma?
Yeah, some of them, it's gonna be very negative. You know, again, I think that there is an increasing perception amongst the military that these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about, so that dilutes their message about the whole wokeness and everything else. Like, these guys are clowns and they're realizing it. But I think it's gonna be negative for some people who really buy into what they're saying because they're not gonna go seek help. They're gonna come back traumatized, they're gonna come back broke, and they're not gonna go try to find help to get better and to recover from that. Trauma is one of those things that sometimes it takes a lifetime to recover from. It's always there. It's always a chapter in your book. And when they do this whole anti-woke, anti-self-realization, anti-intelligence, bit, it stops people from getting the help they need to live a happier, healthier life. You know, people who walk through life, part of their life with depression, when they're able to escape depression, they go like, "How the hell did I even live like that?" Like, that was absolutely abysmal. And, these people won't even understand how much better life can be until they, have the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness to say, "I need help." And realize that they're not the only one. They're not just one person walking out of 330 million that needs help. There are tens upon tens of millions of people that deal with addictions, even more than that, that need therapy. Shit, this entire administration needs therapy. But it's one of those things where don't be afraid to go talk to people. And I think some people, because of what they're pushing, will lead uh, will lead sadder lives because they're unwilling to talk to people and to admit that something is wrong. There's a part of them that knows that, and they think that some part of being an alpha male is you can never ask for help. You have to be all alone. You have to act a certain way and say things a certain way, and that's the only way to get by. But again, when you look at the people who are pushing that bullshit, those are not happy people. They're not successful people. They're shells, and they're making money off of clicks and likes and selling a dream that is only going to make lives worse.
Yeah. It it's the Simon and Garfunkel, I am a rock, I am an island. And no
Yeah,
man is a rock, no person is a rock,
right.
and no person is an island. It takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to heal. It takes community to heal and grow. You can't do it on your own. And this anti woke bullshit, this isolationist and personal isolationism, national isolationism is
Yeah,
so damaging and destructive to your personal well-being, and it's leads to suicide. in a lot of
Yeah.
times. And
Yeah.
I
And
I
it's a
know
strategic.
because I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a strategic um, objective on their part to isolate people,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're isolated, you're not talking to people, you're not more aware of things. You don't have empathy for folks who maybe just are a different color or a different gender or love different people. And we're all the same people who want to get through the day without shit happening to us and we want to take care of our family. And if they isolate you, you're not aware of that, right? Like you just look at these people as objects and things that you should hate. And so it is
Hmm.
a strategic objective to get people to be isolated, to not talk, to not open up, to not be aware of how they're feeling so that they can get them, to listen. They can have the this administration can have all the answers. And if you only do what I say, everything will be great. And it never gets better. It never gets greater. There's no
No.
more money in your pocket. You're not feeling better towards your neighbors. Like all of those things. It's just a sad space. And so again, I hope the pendulum is kind of swinging back where people are realizing the line of bullshit that they've been fed now for not just the last 10 years since the golden escalator, but even before that. And they're turning to a point where, hey, community is good and I can talk to people and they're not out to get me. I am not a target of any of these people. And life can get better.
Yeah. And as my as a friend of mine says, Doc G, is that fascism is domestic abuse at scale. What I
Yeah.
also think is fascism is cult at scale,
Yeah.
because everything that's going on, this isolationist practice, is what abusers and cults do to draw you in. They isolate
Yep.
you from your friends and family. They make you feel alone, dependent on them, and then they abuse the shit out of you. And we're in
They
an
do.
abusive relationship right now with our government and with the billionaires and the pedo class and the Epstein class.
Yep.
Is we we're all being abused right now. Whereas a real democracy is community at scale. And to get there, we do it through these. We talk to each other like this. We expand our own personal networks. And if you think your sphere of influence is small, that's okay. You can make it larger. You can make your sphere
Yeah.
of influence larger. It doesn't have to be terribly large. You don't have to be a national media figure. You could be a person, you could be a neighborhood figure where
Yeah.
you are the trusted house that kids go to. That is a huge thing, is making yourself safe, making others in the community know that you're a safe place. That builds community in my eyes. It's also something that we practice at our house is we are the safe place for kids to come, and they know that, and they know they're safe. They know they're going to get food. They know they're going to get water. They know they're going to be treated well. They know they're not going to be abused by us or anybody in the household, and that we have rules and people follow those rules. And that's such an easy thing for you to do without having a major sphere of influence. But that
Yep.
takes self-reflection and evaluation. So I'm glad you talked a lot about the community thing and the idea. And like, I think we need to talk more, not you and me specifically, but I think the idea of cult speak and cult ideology needs to be spoken about a lot more. And how do we break through that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's community breaks through that.
Yeah.
It's rejecting the isolationism, right? Like or following only one thought pattern or one leader and that being the only way and rejecting everything else. That can never go well. It can never
Yeah.
go well if you walk through life because then you're dismissing everybody else in their own existence that is all around you in every single country. Just again, normal people are just trying to get through the day and have a good day and hope their kids have a good day and have a better life. That's all they're trying to do, you know?
Yeah.
And when you have a cult leader or a group of people, billionaires, oligarchs who are telling you, no, what you really should do is you should hate all these other people and you should only listen to me. There's no benefit.
No.
There's a benefit to rich people, there's a benefit to the oligarchy, to the fascists, to the autocrats, but there's no benefit to normal people for that. It just makes their life shittier.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like to say here is just suck less. Is that's what we're trying to get the system to be in some ways. Like that's just a general base statement, but like just suck less, man. Do more to self reflect, and it's easy because you won't feel isolated and you won't feel alone.
Yeah.
And as we near the end here, I've got 4 questions left for you. They're
Okay.
quick. They are off the cuff. They're a little bit more whimsical. They're based on the Mulan's "I'll Make a Man Out of You" theme song. It's the clarion call to action. I was in high school when it came out, so
Yeah.
um, you'll be swift as a coursing river, with all the
Okay.
force of a great typhoon, as strong as a raging fire, and mysterious as the dark side of the moon. And so I was in choir in high school and college when this was big, and we used to sing this all the time. So it's sort of call to action. It's the "Let's Go Girls" for men, in my eyes, and it's fun. So these are whimsical. There's no wrong answer. All answers are right.
Great.
It's our lightning round of questions. So first one, what does it mean to you to be as swift as a coursing river?
Um, Boy, you said lightning round. This is not going to be lightning. Swift as I think being able to respond to the current situation, as far as what's around you in your environment. Um, yeah, and you have to be present enough to do that.
Awesome. Love it. How do you embody the force of a great typhoon?
I think that's internally, like that strength is on the inside of knowing who I am and knowing where I stand on my morals and my values. And so that's the typhoon. But I'm not going to push that typhoon on other people. So I guess it's not an external typhoon. It's just the strength inside to be confident of who I am and where I stand.
Love it. How are you as strong as a raging fire? And I'll preface this for a second before you answer. I see raging in this way as a fires can be wild, or they can be raging and hot and warm but still contained. So how are you as strong as a raging fire?
Yeah, I think standing by what you believe in, and being passionate about things. I am sitting here talking to you because I'm passionate about trying to help people through this chaos and standing up to what is happening to our country and the oppression that people are being put under by billionaires. And so, raging fire, that is a raging fire inside of me to help others and to help this country you get through what is going on. I spent 23 years as a combat veteran, putting my life on the line to do that. And that's not over. That oath never expires. And I still have that raging fire to, help the people of this country get a better life.
Love that. Final question. How are you as mysterious as the dark side of the moon? This is the
Shit.
hardest question of the interview.
Yeah. How am I as mysterious as the dark side of the moon? I don't know if uh, except I go by AngryMaleVet. I don't know how mysterious I am. I think there was probably a period in my time in my life where I didn't know who I was, who I truly was, or was unwilling to see that, and so I was mysterious there. I don't find myself very mysterious right now. It's pretty much I wear, what I think on my sleeve and put it out there. So uh, I don't know if I got so much in the mysterious front, except for this whole creator artist profile that I have. That's about it. But yeah, I'm in a closet in a basement in Ohio, so that's about as mysterious as it gets.
I love it. That's fair too. That is, I've noticed, the hardest question for a lot of us is how are we mysterious? Because in many ways we're not any longer. We put ourselves out there,
Yeah.
and that was semi. That was semi last question. The real last question here, as we get to the end of our show, is how can people find and support you and the work that you're doing?
No, I really appreciate it. I am Angry Male Vet on, let's see, TikTok, Substack, YouTube. I am the real Angry Male Vet on Facebook and IG because somebody snarked the other one. Um, I don't do memberships or subscriptions. I do have a membership on Substack, but I don't really do anything there. And I warn people they use it just as a reason to buy me coffee. So that's it to help me with my research. And then I have a coffee profile, like a KOFI profile where people can find me if they want to donate. Again, a cup of coffee a month to just kind of dig into the facts and try to put stuff out there in front of people. But that's it. And honestly, the biggest support I get are just people engaging and having comments and tipping me off the things. And just sharing how they're feeling. That's the kind of support, because I want to make a positive impact on people's lives just by giving them the news and what's going on, and not being sensational about it, and then giving my opinions from a retired combat, veteran perspective about what's going on and why, if we push together, everything is going to be okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, man. Thank you.
and everyone in the audience, thank you for being here with us. I know there was some trouble on Substack for some of it, but thank you to all of you who stayed with us and stuck through the issues on the Substack side. Thank you for those who are joining us on YouTube and Twitch. And thank you for being here with me again for this second conversation. I've really, really enjoyed getting to have you on. Love the discussions that we're having, and I think people are really enjoying them. Again, if you're on Substack, hit the subscribe button in the top corner. It's free. You don't have to pay for anything. All the work that I do will come out free too. And so if you want, come support me. Free or paid, doesn't really matter. Paid does help on my side. However, come support both of us. The work that we're doing is really important. We need to change the cultural discussion. We need to change the political discussion, and having these conversations on intelligent humaning. And I like that reframing of intelligent humaning and intelligent humanity is what we need to do. And that's how we're going to make a real impact. So thank you everyone for being with us today. We're done being sick of this shit here, and now we're doing this shit. Go have a great day, everyone. Thanks, my friend, and I'll see you.